Aloha, my name is Sherry Broder, and I'm here today to host the show and also be a guest on the show. We're going to be talking about the early years of Hawaii women lawyers and why we as women lawyers felt that it was important to get together and advocate for the status of women not only in the law but in our community. So I was the second president of Hawaii Women Lawyers, as well as the third president of the Hawaii Women Lawyers Foundation. And I'm very excited today to have with us Dona Hanaike. Dona was the second president of the Hawaii Women Lawyers third president of the Hawaii Women Lawyers Foundation and one of the early presidents of Hawaii Women Lawyers. And then we also have with us today Joyce Neeley. And Joyce was the president of Hawaii Women Lawyers in 1985. She was admitted to practice law here in Honolulu in 1978, so that makes her one of the first practitioners, women practitioners. But she had also practiced law for 3 years in Arizona. So welcome, Dona and Joyce. We're also, okay, I'm not going to say we're old friends. I'm going to say we're close friends of many years.
We are.
Yes. Okay, so I wanted to talk about those early years of Hawaii Women Lawyers and why you folks wanted to join Hawaii Women Lawyers. I mean, why did you pick Hawaii Women Lawyers to join instead of, say, well, the Hawaii State Bar Association or something like that? Because in those days, the HSBA was not a mandatory bar. So why don't we start with you, Dona? Why? Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, I was invited to join by our friend Carol Monlee. And I think at the time I was working at the Attorney General's office. And I think they wanted to, and I was a graduate of the UH Law School, and I think they wanted to get more government attorneys involved. And so I served on the board of HWL, I think it was 1980 or 1981. As it turned out, I had completed my term and had stepped off for a while. And then in '82, the current president, Nancy Stivers, who had done a lot with the organization, was moving to the mainland because she had a job opportunity. And so Marguerite Simpson was moving up to president, and they needed someone who might know a little bit more about the organization, and they asked me to come back in. And so it was actually the second time I came back into the Hawaii Women Lawyers that I actually started to get more involved in the organization.
Well, working at the Attorney General's office, were there a lot of other women lawyers at that point in time?
There weren't. Well, there were a fair amount of women attorneys. I think I personally wanted to be more involved in public service law, but I think a lot of women found it was easier to balance your career and your personal life if you were with the state government. And I think that had an attraction. So there were a fair amount of women attorneys that were in government. There weren't many that were involved with the private bar, and as it turned out, HWL, and I think that was one of the reasons why they were looking at our sector of the bar to get involved with HWL.
Well, of course, when I was involved in the founding of Hawaii Women Lawyers and the first vice president, I guess you could say, or first treasurer, I had just had my first child, so I didn't go into public service. Instead, I had to have my own law practice and go ahead and have kids. How about you, Joyce? Why did you decide to get involved in Hawaii Women Lawyers?
Well, I had practiced in Phoenix for 3 years before I came to Hawaii, and I had been active in Arizona Women Lawyers, which was also a great organization. And the thing for me that attracted me in Arizona and even more in Hawaii was the women. It was just a great place to meet women who were in the same profession as you and who ran up against the same obstacles that you know, some big, some not so big, but it was a great place for a sounding board and a networking place. And I was new in Hawaii, so it was also, for me, it was a really good place to get to know the community better. So all of those reasons, yeah.
And well, back then, you know, when we were involved in the founding years of Hawaii Women Lawyers, what kind of discrimination do you think there was against women lawyers in the community?
There was still some. Yeah, there was actually quite a bit. I remember judges who got angry if you wore a pantsuit to court, you know, judges who would call the male attorneys Mr. Jones and the female attorney, they could say Joyce. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of maybe subtle or maybe not so subtle. I know there was a story that Judy Pavey tells about going to court and being scolded because the judge thought her boss had sent the legal secretary to court. So there were, from one extreme to the other, of those kind of stories. And then it was just harder to break into the other things that go with practicing besides the courtroom. You know, the men had pretty much dominated law for a long time, and it was harder to get in, I think, yeah. But not for long, not after we started.
Yeah, I found it interesting that government attorneys in general weren't getting involved in any, none of the Bar Association. And I also found it a way, joining Hawaii Women Lawyers, to get to know other women that were in the same profession. And as it turned out, they weren't just meeting other women. These women were actually had these great ideas and wanted to do something about it. And so it was like this energy that would come as part of our organization. And people wanted to do things, and then you just wanted to help and be a part of that. And all of a sudden, these projects started coming up. And then you just, all of a sudden, here you are practicing law, maybe starting a family. And then you're taking on these projects as well, and it didn't seem like it was any big deal, as although we were just talking about it earlier. We look back at it and think, how did we get all this energy? But at the time, it was infectious because there were other women who were just very inspiring, and I think that made a big difference to help us and do things that we probably wouldn't have done, well, definitely wouldn't have done on our own. And probably did a lot to help not only the women in the legal profession, but I think it helped the legal profession itself.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you can remember back then women weren't allowed to join the Pacific clubs. We'll talk about the Joyce issue later, but first, at that time, the women weren't allowed to join the private clubs. So there was the Pacific Club, the Waialae Country Club, the Oahu Country Club, and I think that was one of the early issues that we took on. And I remember Lisa Naito was the chair of the House Judiciary Committee and a friend of mine. And so we got her to introduce a bill that would deny liquor licenses to clubs that discriminate based on sex. And I had gotten that idea from, you know, mainland women's organizations who were doing things like that. But she did introduce that bill, and it actually passed out of the House. And so some of the fellows at the Pacific Club told me that they didn't care and that they would just bring their coolers if they had to. But I noticed that the next year they did change the rule and allow women to become members. So
they did. That was a big first step. It was.
That was a big first step.
It was,
yeah.
Yeah.
So later, when I became vice president, president-elect of the Hawaii State Bar Association, the issue was still alive. And Joyce, you had kind of led the way on precipitating that issue once again. So tell us what happened. How did that all come about? Why did we go about causing more trouble?
Yeah, I know. Well, and people have accused me of having this happen deliberately, but it didn't happen deliberately. I was meeting with Ann Anderson, my partner at the time, and we were thinking about forming our own firm. I didn't want to meet downtown where all the other lawyers were, so we decided to go to the Pacific Club on a Wednesday afternoon. And we walked in, there was a men's card room that was closed up, but obviously very busy, and they were serving liquor in there. And then there was the ladies' lounge. and there was no one around. So I just said, well, we'll just go get a drink in here. So we walked in the door of the men's card room, and the whole place became silent. And the bartender backed up against the wall. And I felt kind of bad for him because he didn't write the rules, you know, but these men just stared at us. So I said, well, come on. So we walked up and I said, just give me 2 drinks, please. And, oh, I can't serve you. I said, just give me the drinks and we'll walk out of the room, okay? So the bartender gave me the drinks and we walked out of the room, and then I got back to my office and I thought, well, that was an unhappy experience. So I wrote a letter to the American Bar Association and the Hawaii Bar Association, and as luck would have it, the ABA was having a conference in Hawaii that year, and they had scheduled over $100,000 worth of business at the Pacific Club because they had been told they didn't discriminate against women. And as soon as they got my letter, they pulled all $100,000 worth of business, and the HSBA joined in. So that's what happened. And then I got a call from the Pacific Club asking me to quit.
Oh, you did?
I did, from a guy who had been the former governor of the state, told me if I didn't like it, I should leave it, you know. So I thought, even though I wasn't that big of a fan of the Pacific Club, honestly, I just at that moment decided I would be a member for a long time. So that's how that happened, yeah. But then after that, the thing that really changed the clubs, and not just the Pacific Club, but all the private clubs in Hawaii, was the Hawaii women lawyers, who then did get them threatened with loss of their liquor license because of what I think had happened earlier. Right?
Well, another thing that we did is I was a delegate to the Hawaii State Judicial Conference, you know, as vice president-elect of the Bar Association, and I introduced a resolution saying that it was unethical for lawyers to belong to clubs that discriminate based on sex. And so they even had a panel where we had a debate over whether or not this possible rule would violate the First Amendment, because people had the right to, you know, join whichever clubs they want, freedom of association. And I was accused, sounds like your situation, I was accused of pushing things too hard and also being a fool because such a thing could never pass. So I convinced Chief Justice Lum to second my motion to adopt the resolution. And I knew those lawyers as soon as the Chief Justice seconded it. They would vote against me, but they weren't going to vote against him. So I think that was another thing that probably helped change some of the rules at the private clubs.
I'm sure it did, yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a short break now. We're here with Joyce Neeley and Dona Hanaike, myself, Sherry Broder, former presidents of Hawaii Women Lawyers, and we'll see you after our short break.
Aloha, my name is Kirsten Baumgart-Turner, and I'm the host of Sustainable Hawaii at thinktechhawaii.com. We air live on the internet and also on Oceanic Channel 16. I'd invite you to come for a fresh new show every Tuesday from 12 to 1 o'clock. I try to bring on guests that give us a different viewpoint on aspects of sustainability in Hawaii, as well as trying to unpack some of the difficult concepts of measuring and achieving sustainability, particularly with regard to sustainable economic growth and prosperity in Hawaii. Please join us every Tuesday from 12 to 1 p.m. Mahalo, aloha.
Aloha, here we are back on the air with Sherry Broder, myself, former president of Hawaii Women Lawyers, and 2 other distinguished former presidents, Joyce Neeley and Dona Hanaike. You know, we were just talking about getting the private clubs to allow women members, and of course today we wouldn't think that it could possibly be possible that there would still be some private clubs, but of course we do know that, for instance, in California there's a Bohemian Club, and that's still all male. You know, another thing that was going on back in those days was that there weren't any women judges. There was only Marie Milks. She was the only trial court judge in the whole state of Hawaii. So we tried to put together a slate to run for the Judicial Selection Commission so that we could have a woman candidate run and that we would support her. And we actually did convince Karen Radius to run. So do you remember back in those days trying to advocate to get women appointed to the bench?
I do.
Yeah, and did some of that happen while you were president or vice president or officer?
Well, at some point we got, as you say, we ran candidates for the Judicial Selection Committee. More importantly, I think, or as important, I think we got the word out to all women lawyers that we really wanted to support women in the community and in the law, and got people like the Chief Justice and other people interested in the issue. So I think we raised the awareness in the community all around with the powers that be and got more candidates out there. I definitely remember that. And then at some point, we started to get some women onto the bench, and I can't remember who was first after Marie Miller.
It was Virginia Crandall.
Was it Lee?
Yeah, it was Lee Crandall. She was she was the next one to get. And she was appointed to the civil bench too, which was quite something. And so I think that was something we were already interested in when I was president. That was one of our first main issues, was trying to get more women appointed to the bench. And now, of course, there's quite a few women on the bench, and we have 2 women on the Hawaii Supreme Court. So that's
right.
pretty exciting.
It is. In fact, we have 2 women on the federal bench too, right?
And we have 2 women. So Helen Gilmore was
the
first.
Yeah, and both those women were active in Hawaii Women Lawyers. In fact, all of those women were, I think. So yeah.
Yeah. So when you were president, do you remember working on any judicial issues?
Offhand, I kind of deferred that to other people. Because I was not interested in becoming a judge or that sort. I got more involved in the Women's Legal Foundation at that time. And I don't know if you want me to talk about that.
Yeah, I think that would be really good because, well, first of all, of course, Nancy Stivers and it was Fred Schutte who became very interested in having a fundraising arm for the Hawaii Women Lawyers. And I think that was really critical to some of the success of Hawaii Women Lawyers because we were able to raise money and to have projects and do things, have studies on different issues that would, and support community organizations. So all of that, I think, not only helped Hawaii Women Lawyers, but made a difference in the community. And I know that you were very involved in the foundation and really made a big difference because you were one of the first presidents of the foundation. So you really made a big difference in getting it jump-started and being able to operate. So how did that come about that you wanted to do that, and what do you think were the big accomplishments of the years that you were president of the foundation?
Well, it was sort of a big step, considering that I guess it was about 1976 when HWL was getting started. And so by 1981, 1982, it was, the organization realized that they needed a fundraising arm because they were doing all these projects. It'd be nice to raise money to fund these projects. And so it just by happenstance that when I got back on the board, that was Nancy Stivers' project. She had, and they, in 1983 maybe, 82, 83, they were getting their nonprofit status. And so I sort of stepped into this to assist. At that time, Marguerite Simpson and I think yourself to get this thing moving along because Nancy had moved to California. Tragically, but actually it ended up kind of giving more emphasis to the foundation. Nancy passed away in a tragic accident that same year, 1983, and really was very shocking to everyone because she had been very involved with HWL and starting this foundation. What was so nice of her husband at the time is that he donated some stocks to the foundation in her memory, which actually kick-started our fundraising drive. And then Fred Shuddy, who was a very close friend of Nancy Stivers, ended up becoming a supporter of the foundation, and he also made contributions. And through the efforts of others, we realized we needed to set up this organization and manage the funds and take on the role of fundraising. So in the mid-1980s, we were running the foundation and HWL. We realized we needed to separate the two organizations and to think about fundraising ideas, which started what became our annual fundraiser.
Right.
But at the time, we were just, struggling to set up a fundraiser.
Yeah.
And it was at Wolfat's in Chinatown, and we thought we tried to make it kind of fun. We had special guests. We had judges who were guest bartenders. But it wasn't as much fun as it is today. But it was nice. What was funny was it was in Chinatown, and we had it at night, and we didn't think about that part of it. So at night, in the middle of the night, you're walking to your car on Hotel Street, and this is back in the 80s when it wasn't as gentrified as it was today, as it is today. But from that experience, we learned, and we started doing, I guess from the mid-80s, what has become our annual fundraiser, which now I just think is just wonderful. I mean, people come just to watch the show, and it's expanded to a point where it's become a pretty major fundraiser, and is all monies received as a result of this fundraiser actually go out in grants. And so the function of the Women's Legal Foundation is raising money to help fund some of the projects that were going on in the 80s. And now it's to serve as a grant-making body for organizations that are helping women, children, women's legal issues that are coming forth and so forth. So it's sort of evolved from the simple beginnings of trying to perpetuate Nancy Stivers and Fred Shuddy's vision, and to something now that's become a huge event, and also a significant grant maker to organizations who are doing wonderful things in this community.
Well, Nancy was one of my best friends, and so after she got married, they actually had their honeymoon at my beach house in Waimanalo and everything. But yeah, I think I like the way you said, Donna, that Nancy and Fred really jump-started the foundation. And when Fred passed away, he also left a very generous bequest to the foundation, and I think that's really nice. He was our first male member of the foundation. Well, I remember we've done some kinds of studies on pay equity for women lawyers. Were those funded by the foundation? Do you recall?
I think we did some work with, I think the gender bias and pay equity may have come through lobbying efforts with the legislature. I think Judge Hayashi was very involved in that. I think the foundation assisted with, I think, the publication of the first women attorneys in Hawaii. We probably, in the beginning, we probably helped in funding. Well, I know we were funding HWL activities, which then were things like the domestic violence hotline. Right. Mm-hmm. And I know we put out that book. I don't know if the foundation helped fund it or not. It may have. Our Rights.
Yes. Our Bodies, Our Rights. Yeah, the foundation did fund that book.
Right.
And I think what happened after maybe from the 90s on, we started finding ways as well to get money from other sources. And so the foundation started focusing on raising money so that grants could be made to other organizations instead of to our own organizations, although the foundation does fund HWL activities as well as part of their mandate, and recognizing the close association between HWL and the foundation.
So are you still involved in any way, either of you, with HWL or HWLF?
Unfortunately, I'm not. I should try again to get involved because I do miss the women and the camaraderie and the fun, but this kind of falls away after a while. I think, well, and new young blood, you know, new people come in, and that's good.
I know, but I think that, you know, your career is one that women lawyers, younger women lawyers, can look up to and you know, admire, because you went out and formed an all-women's law firm. And I think that's pretty unusual.
Yeah.
Even today.
I think so, yeah. I did, and we had a large success. I mean, we were able to do it very well, I think, and practiced in all the courts in the state. So it was, yeah. Like I said, I don't know why I haven't been more active in HWL, because it really has a great place in my heart. It really does, and all the women and people I knew there. It's just a wonderful organization.
So how did you decide to go form your own law firm, and what year did you do that? And were you concerned when you got started, like, a bunch of women doing their own law firm, could they get the business, and could they be financially successful?
I was, yeah. Of course you're concerned about those sort of things, but I had a little experience of just being on my own. Actually, you and I shared space for a while, and I was on my own, and I knew the business was there, and I knew there were clients who were willing to work with women. In fact, some who even preferred women, but I'm sure there were some who didn't. But so the business was there, and so I was, of course, concerned. But with a small loan from my dad, we started this law firm, and it's still going on. Actually, it's my partner's name is on it now. But it's, yeah, it was a fun time. It was a great time to be practicing law.
So what year did you form the firm?
I was trying to think, 89, I believe.
1989.
Right.
So that wasn't too long after you got here. So you
No.
got here in 78, practiced law for 10 years, and then said, I'm just going to do my own thing.
Yep, that was it. And it was great. It was wonderful. Really great experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And Donna, you kind of do your own thing now, too.
Yeah, I left the practice of law.
I mean, we had a few cases when you were at the Attorney General's office, because I was always representing the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, right? And you were representing DLNR. Yeah.
So everyone sued DLNR because it was like, well, so what did we do wrong now?
So we always had some issues going on.
Actually, I enjoyed working for the state. It was did a lot of public policy issues, and I was interested in land law and Hawaiian rights and environmental issues, and so it was a way to get involved. But and then I eventually got involved in the executive branch, and then I got pretty tired of.
Well, when you say you were involved in the executive branch, exactly what were you doing?
Oh, well, I went from the AG's office to Deputy Director of DLNR, and then from there I became the Parks Director in the city, and then the Deputy Planning Director for the city, and by then I had enough of, I was pretty tired and I wanted a private life. As it turned out, my father was closing down. He had a small insurance business, and I never thought that I would go from a big corporate government position to a small business, but I did. And actually, I think being in the law practice helped a lot, because it gives you a certain confidence that makes you feel like, well, you know, so what? I can do this. And I tell people I've been in several careers since the beginning, but in fact, with the foundation, as it turned out, because we separated out the foundation from HWL, there were so many wonderful, vivacious women attorneys who were getting involved in HWL, and so we jokingly called the foundation as the retirement home for the past presidents and former board members, where we could still be involved, but be more involved through other avenues. And like you, I started to step back because then the foundation board, they had all kinds of wonderful women and men who were getting involved in the foundation. So I actually ended up stepping back and becoming a member of the Budget and Finance Committee, which now I'm their historian, which I can't get out if I wanted to. But I get to be involved, but I don't have to attend the board meetings, which to me was a big step, you know, and I know what you mean. And I go to the annual fundraiser dinner. That's my way of trying to keep in touch with all these fascinating women who are just doing all these wonderful things.
Okay, we're going to take a short break again. This is Sherry Broder. I'm interviewing Dona Hanaike, Joyce Neeley, and myself, all former presidents of the Hawaii Women Lawyers. We'll hear from our sponsors now.
Mahalo for watching Think Tech Hawaii. We are a channel dedicated to raising public awareness about the importance of technology, energy, diversification, and globalism to the future of Hawaii. We broadcast and stream daily from 1 to 5 every weekday, and we broadcast on Olelo 54 and OC16 TV. All of our shows are archived on thinktechhawaii.com, and we hope to see you there. Aloha.
Aloha, my name is Reg Baker, and I'm the host of Business in Hawaii with Reg Baker. Business in Hawaii is a program that is positive stories about business in Hawaii. We're tired of hearing the negativity and why it's the wrong place to have a business. We talk about the positive reasons for having a business in Hawaii and how to be successful. We broadcast live every Thursday at 2 o'clock. We look forward to seeing you. Aloha.
Aloha, here we are back on the air. Former presidents of Hawaii Women Lawyers talking about pushing open the door and breaking the glass ceiling. So I'm thrilled to be here today with Dona Hanaike, Joyce Neeley, and myself, all former presidents of Hawaii Women Lawyers, and not only former presidents of Hawaii Women Lawyers, but also businesswomen who've had our own businesses. So my own business has been my own law practice for the last 40 years. And Joyce Neeley, what's your business been?
Oh, the same. I had my own law practice for not 40 years, but probably 25. Yeah.
And how about you, Donna?
Well, for the last, I was just thinking about it, the last 16 years, boy, time passes quickly. I've been running a small business, insurance. Took over my father's business, and totally different from government and lawyers. In fact, I actually work with lawyers, so I always tell people I'm a recovering attorney. I don't have to practice law anymore, but I get to work with attorneys, which I do enjoy. And I hope I never have to practice law again.
Well, I've really enjoyed being able to have my own business. And I think you don't have to worry, at least within the office, about being discriminated against, especially if you're the owner. But I think it's really been fabulous that I've been able to have my own business all this time. You know, I personally feel that things have changed quite a bit since I first started practicing law. And of course, I'm engaged in a lot of litigation, and I think that's one place where maybe women are still not as equally represented in terms of the numbers. Maybe part of it is that, being involved in litigation is very time-consuming, very demanding, and women often want to have a little bit more time for themselves so that they can be more engaged in raising their families. So I can certainly understand that. But certainly when I first started practicing law and I would go to court, I would be the only woman there. And sometimes the judges would look over the thing and they would go, who are you? You know, what are you here for? So, so one of the other things that we were interested in at Hawaii Women Lawyers was having a woman president of the Hawaii State Bar Association. So Helen Gilmore had run a few years before me to be the first woman president. And then I ran and I did get elected. And we had a big party at the Black Orchid to celebrate getting the first woman president of the Hawaii State Bar Association. And there we are. Oh boy, look how good I looked back then. There's Helen Gilmore in the back, and Linda Liu, Corianne Lau, Ray St. Chu in red, Lee Crandall, our trial judge, Rhonda Nishimura, now on the district bench, Betty Vitusik, used to be head of the family court, Marie Milks, our trial judge, Lorraine Akiba, now on the PUC, and Carol Monley, the COO of Hawaii Think Tech. So that was really great, and you know, afterwards Helen Gilmore told me, she says, "Oh, you know, I'm so jealous that you got to be president of Hawaii State Bar." So I said, you know, I think being a federal district court judge, Article 3 judge, is a good consolation prize. I don't think you should be too worried about it.
Yeah.
So do you remember when I ran?
I absolutely do. It was such
Yeah.
a great time. I was so excited. I remember that. It was
very
wonderful,
exciting.
and the support for you. I don't know what the final count was. I don't even remember who you ran against, but I just remember there's this huge groundswell of support for you. And it wasn't, of course, it wasn't women. It was just women. It was lots of people. I think it was time.
Yeah.
when
Well,
you
I
got
think
elected.
I've done other things in the community too. You know, I represented Native Hawaiians. I've
Right.
been involved with the law school. I did that heptachlor case
Yeah.
on behalf of all the children and women who were adversely affected by pesticides in the milk. So, but I did go out and get, you know, in those days we did all those long signature things where people were supporting you with
Yes.
sign up and
Yeah.
everything, and oh, that took so much work. Get all those people to sign, and you had to Xerox it up and mail it out to all the bar members.
Yeah.
And everything. But it was very exciting to be
It
the
was
first woman
exciting.
president of the Bar Association.
That was a big ceiling to break through. That was great, yeah. And after that, we've had some more.
Yeah, we have
Alumni from
all-
HWL. Yeah.
all HWL alumni.
Yeah.
Ellen Carson, Ray St. Chu,
Louise Ing?
Louise Ing,
Uh-huh.
and maybe Carol Muranaka, maybe not.
Yeah, she wasn't.
I don't believe she was involved, but she was in AUSA, and I don't think we've had much involvement from the U.S. Attorney's Office. She was in the tax. She was a tax
Right.
attorney for the federal government. So do you think that have we achieved equal pay for women in today's society? What do you think?
Generally? No.
Yeah.
No.
Or even for women lawyers. I mean, do you think, generally speaking, women lawyers are making the same as male attorneys?
No.
No.
No, I don't. That's one issue that has really been hard to push. I accompanied Susan Malway, who was then a lawyer and now is a federal judge, to speaking engagements when Hawaii Women Lawyers was active on that issue. And I can remember being so offended by the questions she would get and the reactions from the audience. And you know, I don't think it's changed a whole lot. I think it's just a really tough issue to push. Back then, though, I was looking at the minutes, and back then it was really pay equity. So it was, you know, nurses were being paid way less than garbage truck drivers, for example. I mean, and so there wasn't, based on your training and your responsibility, there wasn't, you know, it was very sexist back then. So that may have gotten a little better. I don't know. But.
Well, I mean, the statistics show that women are still making, what, 76 cents on the dollar that men are making. And so, I mean, that must factor into it, because it would be harder to have the pay disparity nurses to nurses. So
Yeah,
it
it
must
would
be,
be.
you know,
Yeah.
male nurses must make the same as female nurses, you know, depending on their grade level or whatever. But maybe nurses compared to another profession, they're not being paid their fair amount. And you know, they still say that there's pay disparity within the legal profession. What do you think, Dona, about
Well,
that issue?
what I've noticed is, at least with the younger generation, it's getting harder and harder for them to want to even practice law because they don't choose that lifestyle. They'd rather, they're looking at their own personal life, and they don't want to make the kind of commitment that I think some of these big corporate firms are asking all their lawyers to do. And I understand that quality of life issues are actually making a difference, and a lot of women are they're not going the tenure track. They drop out within the first 5 years by their own choice because they choose to maybe run their own offices or go into an area that they have more control over their life, which actually should be kind of an interesting phenomenon if they end up doing well when you think about it. I hope they do.
Well, of course, there's a shrinking number of those higher paid jobs that are available as well. I mean, the big firms aren't hiring like they used to, and I think there's a lot that the new lawyers coming out of law school are facing in terms of what are the job opportunities that are available. So, do you have any advice to give to a new attorney, a new woman attorney who would like to have a family? All three of us have children.
I think they really need to look at what is important in their life, and I think you can juggle it. I never thought of it before, but I think organizations like HWL and so forth helps probably inspire you to be able to juggle more effectively. I think women, when pushed, actually are very good multitaskers, and so you can do it if you want. And I think with the right support and organizations like this, I think it's not really that hard to do if you're young. And when we get older, then we think about it and go, how did we do that? But when you're younger and with a lot of inspiration and support group, I think you can do a lot.
So your daughter's a lawyer. What is she doing?
Oh, that's right. I was going to mention that. My daughter ended up following me and became a lawyer, and actually that reference to a corporate law firm. She was with a big firm and decided she didn't like it. She wanted a better quality of life, so, which surprised me because that's a generational thing. I mean, I was happy to get a job back in the 70s because, you know, it was hard for women to get, women attorneys to get jobs. And so she doesn't look at life that way. She looks at it like, you know, well, I can do whatever I want to do. And I think that's wonderful. And maybe that's something that we've helped to set up for the next generation, this confidence that they have to pursue whatever goals they want. My daughter is actually working with me. She wants to take over my business. And although she just had twins, so we've had to extend out the transition period for a bit. But
well, congratulations, Grandma.
Yeah.
And you're a grandmother too, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah.
And my daughter's a lawyer.
Oh,
and she teaches at the University of Arizona. So,
wow.
But she's, it's interesting because I think our daughters are like, she's very much into quality of life and not climbing a corporate ladder and things like that. So I think that is a difference in the generations. I think we worked really hard, and I don't regret it. I really liked the law, and I would tell young women today that it's a great profession, and it opens up so many doors. I mean, businesses and legal doors. So.
Well, I'm still working really hard, so I haven't gotten over it yet. But I want to thank both of you for joining me on this show, and it's just been such a great pleasure and thrill to see both of you and to have a chance to chat. So mahalo nui loa, and aloha to the audience.
Thank you.
Okay.
I didn't get to say that.